everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Paul Perkins. Paul Perkins is a former NFL running back. His career path reflects both grit and reinvention. Paul played college football at UCLA, where he rushed for over 3,400 yards and led the Pac-12 in rushing before being drafted by the New York Giants in 2016. Over the course of 5 seasons in the NFL, he played with the Giants, the Lions, Jaguars, Ravens, and Colts, navigating the highs and challenges of a professional athletic career with focus and determination. After retiring from football, Paul co-founded Siptail with his brother, a canned cocktail company that stands out for its non-carbonated mixologist quality drinks designed to bring bar-level flavor to everyday moments. As a co-founder, Paul now leads brand vision, product development, and storytelling, channeling the same competitive edge and discipline that fueled his football career. He's also stepping into the world of acting, deepening his creative expression and embracing new forms of personal growth. Paul's story is one of evolution from the NFL to entrepreneurship, and today he's showing us what it looks like to keep chasing growth, even when the playbook changes. You can find Paul on Instagram by searching Paul Perkins _24 or by going to his website, drinksiptail.com. Hello, Paul. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Oh, what's going on? That sounded way better than just reading it. You made it sound so much better.
Listen, we really got to highlight your accomplishments and the moves you made. We got to celebrate you.
I mean, like, wow, that deserves a standing ovation in itself. I think we can call the pod. We can finish it right now.
We're done in there.
We're done. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me.
And I'm so excited today because Paul and I met during his time in the NFL and when he got drafted by the Giants, and everyone hears me talking about my time at the Giants a lot. So I'm excited to bring someone in from that world, someone I've been able to create a friendship with over the years and really pull back the layers of life. And as you can already tell, we bust each other's balls already. So it's going to be a fun episode. And
yeah.
To start off the show, can you tell me what success it means and looks like to Paul Perkins?
Yeah. Success to me, in this current mindset that I have as a 31-year-old, it's picking a goal and learning from each lesson that you have, each step that you have going towards that goal. Whether it be a step backwards, quote unquote step backwards, or a step forward, as long as you're learning from those mistakes, those interactions, just the whole aspect of that step, taking it towards your goal, I think that's a success. So that can be applied, and a night out drinking with whoever, or like going to see a movie, and you picked a goal, and then you're learning steps that get you closer to that goal, and then you learn from it. So that's my definition of success as a 31-year-old who hasn't really lived a whole lot of life. So it very well could change in about 2-3 years. So.
Well, success should be changing. And again, I just read off a lot of things you've accomplished at 31 years old. So let's not undersell yourself either here. I know I do the same thing and people call me out. So it's fun to be able to call you out. Boy, stop.
I think it's like I think our space that we live in, it's like we achieve things that most people don't. So I don't know if and I guess I'm digging into my psychology. It's like, do I downplay it so we can feel like more relatable to people that haven't achieved what we achieved? Or is it just like you want something more, like that non-complacency type of mentality? I just thought about that.
And it's funny you bring that up, because now being a military spouse in a very high military environment, right? In Juneau, Alaska, the Coast Guard is very present. You have the individuals who are serving on the boat, like my boyfriend are, and then you have people serving in the federal building who oversee Southeast Alaska and all of Alaska and all the ins and outs that are happening. And so there's a lot of different people and families. And I have said over the years that being in the military, from people who I talked about to even before I was a military spouse, to and being in the realm of professional sports, there's a lot more synergy to it than not, because of the experiences you have are so different than other people. But taking a step back to what you were also just saying is being in this environment and having the what people think about when they think of a military spouse, right? The stay-at-home moms, the this, the that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do not get me wrong. But I had lived such a life and then came out here. Yeah. And I work from home and this and that. And, not for anything, there's not an Alaskan football team. So football's a little different here, right? And so many times I'm showing up as a spouse at certain Coast Guard events or this and that. And I remember actually just a week or two ago, we go to this one restaurant all the time. It's right down the street from our house. They know we're here because of the Coast Guard and this and that, right? And it just so happened another coastie flew in to help with maintenance on the boat because they were short-staffed. And he's a diehard Eagles fan. Well, about the Eagles and Giants, it can be interesting. And so we're talking, right? And a few minutes go by, and he's looking at me. This is the first time I met him. He's like, "Wow, you know a lot of shit about football." And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm going to tell you this, and I don't know how you're going to react as a diehard Eagles fan. However, I did work with the New York Giants for 8 years, and I managed to do certain projects with certain athletes, and his mind was blown. And so we started going into all these things that happened during my time working there, right? Different moments and friendships I created and all this stuff. And one of the waiters walked over and he stopped me. He goes, "Did you just mention the Giants?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did I hear correctly? You said you worked for them?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I grew up in Connecticut. I'm a diehard Giants fan."
Let's
he
go.
started naming players. He started naming events. He started naming all this stuff. And he's like, "Wow, you've really done things."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah," but it was one of those moments where as you brought it up, where we have experienced things that not many people will at moments. And I think we play it down because how do you kind of show up and be like, I worked for this NFL team for 8 years and I got to do all this really cool stuff, at 20 years old that you might never get to experience. And how does that just gradually enter into conversation? So I feel like a lot of times we just don't bring it up. And then
I will say, sorry.
No, I was going to say we get used to it. We get used to not talking about how awesome and the marks we've made in life are.
I will say that that's so true because I now that I'm older and I can kind of see the incoming, I wouldn't say incoming freshmen, but the incoming rookies coming in. And when I was playing, guys making mistakes, just a litany of things like drunk driving, whatever it is, having troubles while you're playing in the NFL. And I attributed it to them just not caring and just kind of being reckless and stupid. But then as I'm older and I've left the league a while, I understand that the position that they were in, they're just young kids. And it's kind of hard to tell that to somebody else, kind of to your point. A normal person that has not been where we've been and talked to the people that we've talked to wouldn't necessarily understand. And this does sound kind of privileged, but a 20-year-old coming into a league with like grown-ups, not kids, but like people that have wives, children, and they're just given, 6 figures, 7 figures worth of money. It's kind of hard to relate the experiences that they're having and the things that they're doing and the mistakes that they're having as young kids to another person that's never kind of experienced that. So I definitely understand you. And I actually have a funny Eagle story, if I can get it off real quick.
You can.
Okay. So I grew up a diehard Eagles fan, actually. Like Donovan McNabb, Brian Westbrook, the whole nine, right? My bedroom has like Eagles fat heads of LaShawn McCoy, and like it's painted Eagles colors.
You do know I live 15 minutes from this Eagles stadium, so I grew up right there.
We know. So I have a Donovan McNabb figurine too. So for like one of my birthdays, maybe like I was in high school. I had to be in high school. My parents got me an Eagles wallet. And I've had this Eagles wallet from high school, let's say, all the way through to the NFL. So I'm in the NFL. I'm not thinking anything of my Eagles wallet that I have in my locker. I have my wallet and my keys, all in the stuff in my locker. And the equipment guys, they're coming through, they're cleaning stuff up, taking things out. And I'm actually by my locker, and the equipment guy's like, hey, Paul, what's this right here? I said, oh, it's just my clothes. He said, no. And he picked up my Eagles wallet and he showed me. He's like, no, you're going to have to throw this away. I said, oh, no. I completely forgot about it. And then I ended up throwing my Eagles wallet away that day and got me like a blank wallet. So that's my funny Eagles story.
It is a fun Eagles story. And one thing I want to touch upon before we like dive deeper as well of what you mentioned or a few times now is your age, right? Of 31. And we are the same age. I started in the NFL a little before you. I got a few years on you. However, not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, for you, because I always talk about, and I have talked about the perspective of working for the New York Giants specifically, but in professional sports, in a time where women in professional sports weren't as much a thing, especially younger women, right? We were very lucky at the New York Giants that ownership was like, if you're good at your job, you have a seat at the table. But even, a lot of the females were former, NFL athletes, husbands, and they're like in their 50s or 60s, or, certain situations where I was walking in and I'm 19, and now I'm with all these players. And so I talk about my experience, not only like how welcoming in the relationships I built, but also being younger. And also no one else was really having that experience. And so my perspective has been a little different. And so I'd love to hear what it was like for you walking in or having experiences at your age with a team like the Giants. And you can even talk about the other teams where glass ceilings were being broken, but like, was it a thought for you? Because I've never asked this question before to any of the guys, and now I'm going to throw it out to you live on camera.
Oh, man.
But like, was it anything to you working in a space that is male dominated that you grind out for years working to, and then having someone who's your same age and a female come in, like being in the space and working every day when that wasn't necessarily the norm in all the other environments?
I will say that the Giants opened my eyes to a lot of things. So there's 3 people that stick out in my mind, just females from my time in New York and really across my time throughout the NFL. It's you, Adrian Starr, and Ashley. I think her last name is Ashley Lynn. And I can't remember, like in college, I'm sure there were some, but I can't really recall like that many women in, like you said, a male dominated field that have like kind of a respectable position within the organization and amongst the players. And I think it was amazing, especially for New York, because it is such a melting pot of like ethnicities and cultures and things like that. It only makes sense for them to be a front runner for that. But I embrace it because like it's another perspective, another set of eyes that you get to look at whatever it is, another opinion. Because all guys is cool, but the NFL, like a team is not just comprised of just football players and coach. It has so many other people that are kind of dispersed across in it. So you actually need that diversity to kind of help the team grow.
And it's also something that I again have talked about this when it comes up in interviews and they're like, what was it like working? I'm like, some of my best friends to this day are players on that team. And, because even though my perspective was different and they're like, well, how did lines not get blurred? Because that's another thing that always comes up. I'm like, do you know the shit I gave those players sometimes? I was like, they asked me a question and I just told them my thoughts. Like, I'm like, I told them how it was. I'm like, I will be their biggest fans, but, I would also very much be like, that's dumb. No. And I think that when you're like that and you create, you mold into, everyone's molding into the locker room environment, as one might say, whatever it might be, and you have common goals and interests, it creates a really fun environment.
And you, like, for women especially, like, there has to be like a boundary that you set. Like, hey, like, I know I'm in your locker room, but there are things that I'm not going to do and not going to say, and I expect that same respect out of you. And you, Ashley, and Adrian, like, you guys did a great job of kind of like, hey, I'm not playing games, but I'm here to play games. All right.
Well, and I remember, back in the day too, where I would get comments, and this was the very interesting thing for me. It was never from the players. It was never from people in the NFL. It was always from like fans or interesting enough friends of mine, which you could kind of the male friends more than anything, that, you meet somebody at the bar, you get talking, they realize what you're talking about when it comes to sports and this and that. And then like all of a sudden a phone call or a text from Paul would pop up or a text from Odell would pop up and they're like, oh my God. And then like they would think it would be really funny to be like, so who did you sleep with to get that job? Or, this and that. And I'm like, okay, you playing, but like, you don't realize the work that goes into it. So to me, it was always very interesting too, that it was there was always clear boundaries and respect from both ends of, like my side and like respect to the wives and the girlfriends and just for the job and the place we were in, but also from the people I've worked with and the players like yourself. And when it wasn't coming from within the organization or from within the league. It was always coming from outside, which I thought was a very interesting perspective.
That's a hard thing that I think women have to deal with. In my experience, I haven't really had that, but I've heard what you said kind of been said across from different people. Like, oh, how you got that job because you were sleeping with people. It's like, no, like, I actually started when I was super young and I worked my way to the position where I'm at. I went to school, like I'm well read. I'm capable for this job. Why should I have to sleep with someone to get to this position? So that is a thing that we don't necessarily have to deal with as much. So
yeah. Well, Paul, that being said, during your time in the NFL, you suited up for 5 different teams, each with its own system, culture, and its own pressures from not just internally, but also the fan base, if we're going to be honest here. What did constantly adapting to new environments teach you about your identity beyond just the playbook that was handed to you?
I think you gotta have kind of what you were saying, or we were saying earlier, like you have to be kind of the same person in every room. Like you got to set up your boundaries and give respect to people. But the way you show up in each place is reflect and speak volumes on your actual character. There's no need to be a chameleon in different areas, because that's not being and bringing your true authentic self. And each place needs that true authentic Paul, true authentic Olivia to make the team what it is. So I have my core values and my beliefs, and I stuck to those, and I'm pretty happy, smiley guy. So I want to make sure I maintain that no matter what kind of adversity I was dealing with on the field, at least in the locker room, be a personable guy, be a happy guy, be a friendly guy. And however I can help my team win both in the locker room and on the field, I was going to do that.
That being said, you just reminded me of a discussion that I had with Carleaf about being traded from the Giants to another organization. And he had only been traded one time. Not that that is any less than, well, I'm not trying to play that down. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who's about to say, I'm not trying to play that down. But we had a conversation about how hard it was for him to be traded and how that took an impact on his mindset, because he loved playing for the Giants so much and what that was like. And so I kind of want to expand on that with you of, you didn't just have that happen once where you might get settled and build relationships with players and, have your footing in the environment you're in. You experienced that 5 times in the years you played. So for you, what was that initial trade like for you? And then did it become easier the more you have to do it? And did your mindset shift or grow because of that?
Yeah. I would say that football players or athletes in general are extremely loyal and regimented. So like, we have something that works and we like it, we're going to keep doing it. And especially for like teams, I don't know of a lot of players that are going into a situation or going to a franchise. They're like, yeah, I'm only going to be here 1 year, then I'm going to get out of here. Like, I'm only going to be here a couple of years, and I think I'm going to go to another team. I feel like most draft class, most people that get drafted are coming to the team. They're like, yo, I'm coming to this team because I want to make this team my forever team. I'm going to make this team the best team that I can make it. I want to retire as a X, Y, and Z. For me, it was a Giant. So when I first got there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be here forever. And I'm not going to leave. I don't ever want to leave. And then when I finally got the call that I was getting let go and I got picked up off waivers from the Lions, it almost felt like we were breaking up. And it was tough because not only is it the place that I was living, the city that I was at, it was the people that worked there that I was going to be missing out on, that I'm not going to be seeing all the time, that I had built, years relationship with, and not being able to just keep that friendship or that relationship going, and then getting just dropped off into another place where people already have their cultivated relationships and have their housing situated and stuff. So it's kind of hard getting just plopped down into a place where it's kind of in the, not middle of the season, but the season had kind of gone on and people already have their friendships and rosters are kind of already set. And people are kind of looking at you as a threat or the new guy, and kind of standoffish a little bit, but you just have to break the ice. So, but as you go, like, you understand that, hey, like, I'm only here to accomplish, win a couple games, get to my next contract. While I'm here, though, I'm going to make the most of it and enjoy the relationships that I have. But I am here it is a job, and I'm here to do my job. And then if I go to another team, then so be it. So that's kind of how my mindset changed.
And you said something there that I was like, not only is everything you've been saying so far powerful, but there was a moment in there that made me think and reflect on the relationships we do have. Do you find that in the NFL space, and this is something I'm literally reflecting on in real time too, as you said it, that people are so used to change that it's, well, and I don't want this to come out bad or wrong, but it's like friends while you're here. And then once you're gone, it's like, okay, if I ever see you again, we'll see each other again. Versus like, we're friends now and we'll be friends and we'll, even if it's once a year, we'll catch up. Yeah. Do you think the mentality around relationships in the NFL versus, as you're starting your business and in these different areas you've experienced are different in just how they're viewed in general?
I will say, like, I have Orleans. I still talk to Orleans quite frequently. Like Orleans Darkwood, Shane Vereen, and I kind of talked to Rashad Jennings. Like my position group, we were a pretty close position group, so it wasn't hard for me to think as a rookie that I would be where I'm at today with the relationships that I have. But I remember, I don't know if it was Rashad or Shane or Orleans or Bobby Rainey that told me like, hey, like, this is like the relationships that you have are cool, but you need to understand that guy that you're going out to eat with very well could be gone tomorrow. So you almost approach relationships kind of cautious because you're like, okay, we're friends, but how much of my soul do I need to give you? Because you could be gone and I might never see you again, and it's gonna be hard because we'll be in season and I can't really talk to you and text you and see you physically. And sometimes guys aren't the best, like pick up the phone and call, or like the best texters. So you definitely have to have some, I don't want to say caution, but like a little, kind of be apprehensive about the amount of friendships that you have because they leave so quickly.
Yeah, and as I was asking that question, and as you touched upon it slightly beforehand, I was reflecting on my time and like that very first time I experienced that, where like, my rookie years was with Eric Flowers and Landon Collins and that group. And like, I remember getting the call being like, hey, we really want you to work in player engagement as an intern. And I got that call on like on a Tuesday, and Monday was when all the guys who were drafted were showing up for the first day. And they're like, you need to be here on Monday. Like, you need to start with the guys. So like from day one, like I had the mindset of like, okay, we're on this together. This is going to be so cool. And I say that those rookies, like that was my rookie season as well. And I remember there was a guy on the team. His name was Ben. He was so nice. He was a walk-on, but got like brought on very quickly after the draft. So he was with us the whole entire time. And last day of training camp, before the season starts, they all make the cut. You're there. And I was in our dining area at the Giants, which is like looks out to the practice field. Yeah. And I was there, and David Tyree runs in. I'm just sitting, having my little yogurt, ice cream, watching the guys finish up. And I was talking with some people, and he like runs in. He's like, we need meds. He's like, and like before he even said that, he goes, that guy's career is done. And I was like, who? Like, what is happening? And he laughed. And I'm like, what is going on? And Ben had torn his ACL in the last play of the last practice before season started because he was a walk-on and now he was going to be out for an entire season. He's like, that guy ain't ever coming back. Like, it is what it is. And that was my own personal experience of like going through something and like really building friendships because it was like my first season, their first season. We're all the same age. I was actually a little younger than a lot of the guys. And I was just like, oh, wow, this isn't like, and like, then I'd check in like a few times after that, and then it kind of just died. And I think mentally he needed to move on. Yeah. But like, that was my first time of being like, oh, wait, tomorrow this can be over, and these friendships can end. So like when you find friendships that do last, especially coming out of that environment, it is so much more rewarding, I think, as well.
Well, what's it called? We spend we spend like the 7-8 months we spend together. It's a lot of time. Like it's a lot of time. So like you learn to bond with people really quickly because we just on a week average, we're spending 6 days out of the week with each other. And most of it is, either on the practice field, in the position meeting rooms, in the cafeteria dining hall with Jose and Mindy and Lamar and all those guys. And like, that's where we're bonding. Our phones aren't really on us. We're talking, the TV's on, but like no one wants to watch TV when we have so many interesting conversations. So we have so much time together, time under tension too. And we're all achieving one goal. It's like, it feels like a family. And then when someone leaves or gets hurt, like you said, it's like, dang, like I used to get yogurt with him. Now he's gone, so. Yeah. So.
It's very interesting. So based on that and talking about gone and moving on, when, most people think about when they're transitioning out of the NFL is what's next? What's that next thing I'm going to do? But often it's about unlearning a mindset or belief or throwing yourself into new opportunities. For you, what was your transition out of NFL like, and how did you figure out starting Siptail with your brother was what you wanted to do?
Yeah. So initially, actually like maybe a year before I left the NFL, I had gotten my real estate license. So once I finally was done with football, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be a real estate. I'm going to be the best real estate agent I could be. I quickly learned that was not my calling, wasn't my passion really. I was just doing it just because it was something that I had a license for, but it wasn't necessarily for me. And going through that process of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, it took a little bit of time. My brother was still playing in the NFL, so he definitely helped cure my mentality, my sadness. And while I was kind of getting out of my, slight depression, I found acting. And I found that being on stage and being in front of people and being in front of the lights was the closest thing I could get to running out of a tunnel and playing in front of all the fans. So that's initially kind of how I started moving away from football. I was like, I found acting and I was like, okay, let me just do this. This feels good. It feels like it's filling that hole in my stomach, my heart. And then as my brother after he went to the Super Bowl, he's like, hey, I think it'd be dope if we started our own company. There's like High Noons and Cutwater, all these other canned drinks. He's like, what if we did something different and, spun it that way? Because we're from Arizona and we can really hit the Arizona market hard. And I was like, shoot, I ain't doing nothing. Let's do it. And from there, we just kind of cultivated the name, the story, what we wanted to tell the people and kind of our big vision for it. And from there, and we both have football backgrounds, like I had mentioned. So, coming up with a schedule or coming up with and finding someone that is just as determined to see this succeed, it was easy because, it's just like football. We're all on the team trying to get the Super Bowl. So we were both on the team trying to make Siptail what it was. Then as I'm doing Siptail, I'm also doing the acting thing as well. So it was easy to kind of split two.
And I want to go more into Siptail, but I also want to touch upon, because I wasn't going to bring up your brother, but since you brought it up, I remember the day he started with the team and like his first practice, you text me, he's like, my brother's playing, my little brother's playing. And I remember celebrating that and thinking to myself, how rare, how rewarding is it not only to see two brothers play, right? You have my good friend Marcus Ogden, who's Jonathan Ogden's brother, who they both played. You see, the Mannings and their relationship and them both playing. But it's very rare when you go down the list of siblings, of how many siblings make it to the NFL and both get to play while also having their own identities and everything like that. You had stopped playing when your brother came, but for me, what was so amazing to watch was, at least from my perspective, there was no jealousy of okay, well, now I'm out and he's in. It was, my brother now gets this opportunity. And I'm going to help him succeed in that because I know how rewarding the game can be. So I just want to add that little tidbit in there.
That's so true. Everything.
But so for you, as you've gone on and continued to create Siptails, what are the, when you started it and you guys were coming up with the idea, let me rephrase it like this. What were the things that you knew from the jump that you wanted to do a certain way, even if others told you, hey, this is the better way to do it?
Honestly, we had no idea what we were doing. So everything we were doing was just like, oh, that seems right. Let's do it. Oh, that seems cool. Let's do that. And like now that we are where we are, it's like, okay, maybe we should have, like so our brand, we try to make this like a fashion forward brand. And when we first came out the gate, we had like this big elaborate photo shoot. These pictures turned out really nice, but we didn't even have the actual liquid in the cans for the photo shoot. So we were giving all the models like empty cans with glue lid on it. We glued the lids on so it looked like it was a real can. So all the stuff from that first photo shoot, we spent all this money and we didn't even have the product yet. And I'm like, man, we could have spent that somewhere else. But I'm glad, we did it because that definitely started the brand and got the interest going for us. But we had no idea. And I think that's kind of the saving grace for us, is that we just went in it with a football mindset that like, hey, we're doing it, so we're going to accomplish it and we're going to see it all the way through to it succeeds. So I appreciate that aspect of our growth and our beginning of our journey, is because we didn't know anything. So we went into it full steam ahead.
And what has been the biggest thing you would say you look back as an entrepreneur? Because I think so many entrepreneurs, myself included, I went in with the mindset of, like you said, okay, this is the vision. We're going to full steam ahead and get it done. But as years have progressed and time has progressed, was there something in your entrepreneurial journey where you were like, I wish I knew this, or I listened to this person about being an entrepreneur?
Honestly, being an entrepreneur never really crossed my brain until I became one. And even when I became one, I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just an ex-football player. So like, I'm telling you, for me, at least, I can only speak for myself, but like growing up playing football, I thought I was going to ride off into the sunset playing football and then just do whatever afterwards. So once it kind of became reality that I was going to be, hey, starting my own business with my brother, I quickly had to learn that we are very similar in mindsets and a lot of aspects of our lives, but we are two different people, kind of. And understanding that the goal is going to stay the same, but how we get there is always going to be changing, just because of our growth and just the people that we are. So I might see something different than he will, but we don't necessarily argue because the goal is still to get to the Super Bowl of, the drink. And understanding the time constraint on being an entrepreneur, that it's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's like 9 to 11 Monday through Sunday. So I never was really around a lot of entrepreneurs growing up. My parents worked for Boeing, so they worked, traditional hours. But then once I got into this, like real estate kind of taught me that as well. Like, yeah, it's 5 o'clock, but I still have 3 more homes I have to show this one client. So understanding the time constraints and also that your business is going to always mold and change and shift.
And I love that. And on that as well, like molding and shifting, not just goal-wise, but in industry, right? So Siptail, it was a bold move, right? Especially into the beverage world, which more and more individuals are like, oh, this is such a great space. Let me start a drink here, right? You see more and more celebrity drinks and this and that. But you also shook it up with a non-carbonated cocktail. Was this a aspect of like, hey, we're going to strategically disrupt the market and this is how we're going to disrupt it? Or was it as you were getting your footing into what you wanted to create organically, you were like, this would be cool, and just followed that path?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I'd say. I think, so for us, I can't speak for everybody, but we started officially in 2021. We didn't have the actual liquid until 2023. Until the end of 2023. So we had to spend 2 years of like having nothing but $1 and a dream. And I think a lot of people do get into it thinking like, hey, I'm going to get into this and I'm going to make a whole lot of money really quick and I'm going to ride off into the sunset. But you don't realize like, hey, you're going to have to put in a couple of years to get where you're going. And I forgot your question. And I'm just going to keep talking. Okay.
I do that too sometimes. I'm like, hopefully it comes back to me at some point. It'll circle around. We'll come back to it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just talking till I remember, and then it'll just all make sense. I'll make it make sense. So my question was around like, did you purposely choose what? Yeah, you remember? I'll stop.
Yes, I remember. I was like, yeah, it was back in my day. No, I'm joking. We wanted to do non-carbonated, both because while we were in it, we're like, oh, this is different. And we were like, hey, there's nothing like this on the market. Because I mentioned all the other brands. In 2021, that's why I said 2021. Because in 2021, there wasn't a lot of non-carbonated drinks in the market. And we're like, oh, it would be cool if we did this and kind of disrupt it. And we also like drinking this. But now, as in 2025, going to 2026, there's so many non-carbonated drinks that it almost feels like we did it because it was kind of the trend. But when we started, I'm not trying to say we're like a trendsetter, but 2021, there wasn't a whole lot of things like that on the market. And a lot of the responses we get from people is that it is non-carbonated and they like that there's no carbonation things in their brand, in their drink. So that always is reassuring that we did choose the right path. Even though if we did a carbonated option, it probably would be much easier to sell because there's a lot of people that love carbonated drinks.
One thing you mentioned before you forgot where you were going was also on and I think it's very important to highlight though, is the fact you mentioned you started in 2021, but your product didn't come to be till end of 2023. And you brought up the fact a lot of people start businesses and want to get off the ground running, making money, making that money back they've invested as quickly as possible. Whereas in what you were doing, that isn't really an option, right? Because you have to build the drink. You got to make enough. The factory's got to make enough to sell the drink and keep it on the shelves as well. And you got to test it out and all these different things, right? From a idea to production to, actually getting it fulfilled and distributed. So for you as an entrepreneur and building something you're so passionate about, what was it like knowing like I'm starting this business that I'm excited to tell people about and have this drink in their hands, but I can't do that right away now because we have to go through this process of even creating the drinks before people can actually drink the drink?
Yeah, no, I think so. As we're getting into it, we heard a lot of different stories like, hey, it's going to take you 5 years to see anything, or it's going to take you 10 years for you to, really be in the green. And I also remember, I don't know if it's whiskey or if it's bourbon, but like they have to sit on product for a year, or they have to sit on product before they can even move it. So going into it, we kind of had that understanding that, hey, like it's going to take us a while to get to where we wanted to go. So while we had no products, we were really trying to take the time to understand what we were getting into, doing all the necessary research, getting licensing, things like that, and really building the brand. Since we had no pressure of, expiration of the product, we had nothing. So we can really kind of understand where we are and where we want it to be in the future and kind of really build that strong foundation for it to be successful in that 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, whatever it may be. And just really get our bearings before we really take the rocket ship out.
And building its legacy is what I also heard you say there. It's like building something with the purpose to stay and continue to grow and build a legacy for what you're doing and the brand. But I could only imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you were probably so amped. You were like, I got this secret.
What?
And, no one knows. And I can't wait till people realize what I've been doing for this time. So what was that like for you in the moment?
The crazy thing is, so 2021, 2023, we probably had the flavor that we wanted to put in cans in the first year. So we started in June. We probably were taste testing in 2022, like January, February, March, like in the first quarter of the new year. So we knew what it tasted like, and we're like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. Like everybody's gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be fire. Everybody's gonna buy it off the shelves. So sitting on that, like actually knowing what it tastes like and seeing what it could be in the stores was tough. But I was sitting on. I was like, you know what? Once they get to it, it's going to blow their minds. So I had a quiet confidence about it, but it was just like, I just want to get it out. And we were just giving samples out to our friends and families and stuff. So we had, people arm's length distance trying it, but it's nothing like giving it to a stranger. They're like, ooh, I like this.
And, I recently had a conversation with a patent attorney on the podcast. And when we were recording, because I'm not quite sure if that episode has dropped by the time we drop this episode. So I don't typically talk about other things, but I guess we'll bring it up. But he said, when you're in the idea stage, one of those points was keep the idea close to your vest, because the people that are most interested are the ones that might try to steal that idea. So was there a level of you as you were building this, knowing that people didn't know, knowing what you were creating, loving what you were doing, where you wanted to tell people, but you're like, I don't want to, because I don't want anyone to steamroll me or, try to copy what your hard work has placed?
Yeah, that's so true. Like in the ideation phase, you do have to be careful because there are people that are trying to poach it. We actually had someone try to take the formula that we had in cans already, buy it from us, and then sell it in another country. And they're like, yeah, you'll just get royalties off it, but it'll be our drink. And we're like, whoa, and when he said that, we were like, okay, this is kind of the norm across the industry, that it's easier to take from somebody else and then label it as your own. So you have to be careful about who you're talking to, how much information you're really divulging, because there's always ears listening and trying to see oh, okay. And it could be either inspiration or poaching. I guess there's a fine line between the two.
Yeah. It's something I even see in my consulting or in the podcast space over the 4 years is I was really the first to do podcast audits and do the things I do the way I do it. And a lot of companies saw the podcast industry exploding and they're like, oh, I could get someone on a podcast, or, oh, I could do this. And it's it's not the white glove service. It's not you're cold emailing 1,000 people. It's not, oh, I specifically curated a list that would be really good for you to be on for XYZ reasons. So I think you even see it in different industries, but it's so interesting, not only about oh, this is more of a norm versus not, but also to me, it also shows different people's characters, right? And I think coming from a place where you protect going back to football here a little bit, you protect football at all costs. You protect the people especially in what I did, right? Player engagement, PR. I protect the guys. No flimsies coming in, no, floozy, whatever you want to call it. No, no one out with bad motives. I protect the guys. And so for me, I think I have a different lens of being able to catch people really quickly. I'm like, what is your motive here? Why are you trying to do it? That to me, it's like so interesting being like, okay, you're trying to wrap something up very pretty, but this is really what you're trying to do, and we're not going to let this in.
I think being an entrepreneur, whatever, you do get a gauge of people's energy, and you hear like the business talk, like you hear like the pretty wrapping paper, like you had mentioned, like you hear people paint this beautiful picture, but their underlying goal is to X, Y, and Z to you. And I think that's what I've gained that skill to kind of look through the BS and be able to decipher, like, okay, what are they really saying to me right now? What is their real mission, their objective?
Well, I can't believe it. We're at the end of the hour.
What? Dang it.
There's so much more things we could talk about. I looked down. I was like, oh my God, we're actually at the top. Okay.
Dang, my fault. Just over here talking, forgetting all my talking points. That's my fault.
No, I think, one of the amazing things about having the conversation the way we had the conversation is it really pulls back the layer of just who you are, how you show up, and why you're doing what you're doing. And so many of us want to drink a drink or buy a product because we know the person who their motives, why they're doing it, and we want to support that. So I think you showed up great today. There was no specific talking points that you had to hit. I think you hit everything beautifully because Siptail is an awesome drink, but also we get to know more about the man behind the curtain as well. And so often we don't get that glory. So,
Thank you.
Paul, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Perkins_24. I'm on LinkedIn, but hey, if you want to sit in the inbox for a while, it's your death. Not on Twitter or X. Siptail is on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So you can reach out in any of those ways. And usually it's myself, my brother, or one of our social media managers kind of looking at all the DMs and messages. So if you reach out, it'll definitely get back to me.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for all of your insight today. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
No, you're dope. Proud of you. Keep going.
Thank you. And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation, and I need to emphasize the fun conversation where we got to pull back the curtains on memories, impact, where we're going and what we're building. But a few of those are be you in every room. Paul showed up today and who he is and who I've known him to be since 2016. So it just shows whether he's in this space, whether he's creating Siptail, whether he was in one of those 5 teams, he was showing up who he is and was at that time in his life. And I love how he brought that up because it's so important to remember there is only one of you. And why someone might have hired you, why they want to work with you, why they might wanted to buy your product is because of who you are. So continue to show up authentically as you and don't try to, hey, I got this job or this opportunity. Now I have to show up in a different manner because people want you, as well as go in with the mindset you have. Like, what is the opportunity you have for yourself? What is the goal you have? As Paul mentioned, he went into football with the mindset of be who I am, show up my hard work, and continue to hone those skills. He went and left the NFL with the mindset of, okay, Who am I right now? What do I want to work towards? What do I want to be? And then he continued that mindset into Siptail with his brother. And lastly, before I hand out a challenge for today, the goal is always there, but the vision could pivot. And I think that's really important on how Paul brought that up about what it's like working with his brother and how you how they've navigated creating Siptails together, because so many of us have a goal, right? Whatever that goal might be. It might start out with getting this idea on paper. Then it might be starting that business. Then it might be growing that business to a certain dollar amount. And what Paul has emphasized throughout today's conversation is that the goal you set for yourself can be achieved, but the direction that might weave could look different than the original spot you thought it was going to be. Even in football, Paul mentioned that he was drafted by the Giants. He thought he'd end with the Giants, and that would be his whole career, and he'd right off to the sunset. But he was drafted by the Giants. He wanted to play, and his goal was to play in the NFL. And he played with the Giants for a few years and then went on to play with other teams. But the goal of continuing to play football was still there, even though he was on different teams and it looked different. Same with Siptails. He brought up, the goal is to have this product that impacts people and people love, and they love to drink it. And as they started and navigated, him and his brother's viewpoints might be different. Their perspectives might be different, but they're still working towards that end goal. And so the challenge I have for all of you today is look at your goal, look at where you were today, and reflect back for a minute and say, was the space you are today versus where your goal is, was that the linear line you thought it was going to be? Or were those pivots that then shaped how you show up today? And once you acknowledge there are those pivots, because let's be honest, 99.9 of you are going to say there are those pivots, but reflect on what that really looked like and then how that shaped who you are today. Think about what pivots might lie ahead and embrace those. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Paul Perkins. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.